All right, strap in, everyone. Today we are going deep on MCDP 3,
Ooh, exciting.
the Marine Corps Guide to, you guessed it,
Yep.
Expeditionary Operations.
And this isn't just some theoretical stuff. This is the doctrine that shapes how the Marine Corps operates.
Exactly. So for all you Marines listening out there,
This is about understanding your role in it.
so we're going to break down exactly what MCDP 3 says about how the Marine Corps thinks about and does these expeditionary operations.
It's absolutely essential knowledge for any Marine to grasp these principles.
So expeditionary, right, we hear this all the time, but what does it really mean?
It boils down to global power projection.
Okay.
So unlike some militaries that are tied to defending a specific territory,
Right.
the Marine Corps, they're all about being able to rapidly deploy anywhere in the world
Gotcha.
and being ready for any type of mission.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's the heart of expeditionary operations.
So the document kicks off with this pretty interesting kind of juxtaposition of quotes, right?
It does, yeah, two very different perspectives.
Yeah.
First, we have George Washington back in 1780,
Way back.
stressing the importance of naval superiority.
Of course.
Then we fast forward all the way to 1949,
All right.
Secretary of Defense Lewis Johnson.
Okay.
He actually declared amphibious operations obsolete.
Wow, what a terrible prediction.
History had other plans,
Big time.
way off the mark.
It seems like the Marine Corps' continued relevance
Yeah,
really shows how well they've been able to adapt
absolutely.
and stay true to the core principles of expeditionary warfare.
Even as technology and global politics change,
Yeah.
it's impressive.
So that brings us back to why MCDP 3 is so important.
Yes.
It really underlines how dedicated the Marine Corps is to expeditionary warfare,
Right.
even as times and the challenges change.
Yeah.
So where do we even begin with all this?
Well, the first core concept in MCDP-3 is Naval Expeditionary Forces.
Right.
And this is where that famous partnership
I was going to say,
between the Navy and Marine Corps comes in.
the dream team.
It's like two sides of the same coin, you know? Yeah.
So the Navy provides the platform.
Okay.
They control the seas,
Uh-huh.
unmatched global power projection.
Yeah.
And then you've got the Marine Corps.
Right.
They bring that specialized expertise to actually do those critical operations.
That makes sense.
Once they're ashore.
So it's a lot more than
Right.
just
Oh, we're sure.
Marines hitting the beach.
A lot more, right?
It's this deeply integrated force
Right.
that can handle, a whole range of situations, from humanitarian aid
Yep.
to, full-on combat.
You got it.
So, speaking of all those different situations,
Yeah.
MCDP-3, it goes into how these forces are structured, right?
It does.
Which is really interesting in itself.
Yeah. Pretty fascinating.
So tell me about that.
Well, it explains that Marine Corps force commanders, they have three main types of expeditionary elements they can use.
Right.
First, you have the classic amphibious forces,
Right.
Projecting power from the sea.
Those are the ones that come to mind, right?
The classic image, landing on the beach,
Exactly.
establishing that foothold.
That's it.
But then there are the maritime prepositioning forces.
Oh, yeah. Those are cool.
What are those?
Imagine ships just placed strategically around the globe,
Okay.
fully loaded with equipment and supplies.
Wow.
And then, when needed, Marines just fly in,
Oh, I see.
link up with those resources,
Mhm.
and boom, rapid deployment.
So it's like a giant floating arsenal,
Exactly.
ready to go wherever.
Wherever it's needed.
Okay, so we've got the classic amphibious forces.
Yeah.
We've got the maritime prepositioning forces.
Right.
What's the third one?
The third element is air contingency forces.
Okay.
These are your rapid response teams,
Mhm.
the ones who deploy by air
Gotcha.
within 18 hours.
Oh, wow. So fast.
Super fast.
So they don't have all the heavy equipment, I'm guessing?
Right. They don't have all the heavy stuff like the maritime prepositioning forces do.
Right.
But speed and agility,
That's their thing.
that's what they're all about.
So it's like different tools for different jobs, right?
Exactly.
Each of these different force packages brings something different.
It's all about flexibility,
Yeah.
adaptability.
Okay, so who's in charge of all this?
All of this operates under the three Marine Corps force commands,
Okay,
MARFORLENT, MARFORPAC, and MARFORS.
gotcha.
They make sure that these forces are trained, equipped, and ready to go
At a moment's notice.
at a moment's notice.
And MCDP 3 really emphasizes the role of the reserves, right?
Oh, absolutely, MARFORS.
Yeah.
They're crucial.
Okay.
They're totally integrated with the active duty forces.
Right.
So you've got extra manpower and those specialized skills ready to go
Makes sense.
when they're needed.
So we've got all these expeditionary forces ready to respond all over the world.
Yep.
But how are they actually organized when they are out in the field, on a mission?
That's where the MAD-GTF comes in.
Okay, the magic
It's
factor.
Marine Air Ground Task Force.
Right.
And this is central
So
to
important.
how the Marine Corps functions.
You're
It's their fundamental building block.
Gotcha.
It's a self-contained force
Okay.
that can handle missions across the whole spectrum of conflict, the
Okay.
whole thing.
So what makes it so special? Why is it structured this way?
Well, the MAD-GTF is all about modularity.
Okay.
Think of it like Legos.
I like Legos.
You've got your 4 core elements, the command element, the ground combat element, the aviation combat element, and the combat service support element.
Okay, I'm following.
You tailor each of those elements
Right.
to the specific mission.
So it's not one size fits all.
No, no, no.
You mix and match to build the perfect MAD-GTF,
Exactly.
depending on the mission.
Whatever challenge you're facing.
And this also helps them integrate with other branches of the military, right?
Whoa, absolutely.
Because their structure mirrors the joint
Yep,
forces.
Exactly.
Okay, that's really smart.
Keeps things running smoothly,
Yeah.
working together.
So we've established that the MAD-GTF is this super adaptable modular force.
It is.
But MCDP3, it goes even deeper, right?
Mm-hmm.
It does.
And it breaks down all these different types of MAD-GTFs.
It gets even more interesting.
Tell me more.
So the biggest, the most powerful type of MAD-GTF is the Marine Expeditionary Force, the MEF.
The MEF.
This is the heavy hitter,
Okay.
capable of major combat operations.
So we're talking large-scale amphibious assaults,
Absolutely.
long-term ground campaigns.
That's it.
And this is probably the type of unit that our listeners most familiar with.
Most likely.
There are 3 standing MEFs, right?
You got it. I, the, and 3.
Okay.
Each has its own permanent command element and a powerful mix of ground, air, and logistics units.
Wow. A lot going on there.
Oh, yeah. And an MEF can even deploy in echelons.
What does that mean?
So the lead element, called ME forward, goes in first,
Okay.
sets up the initial base,
Gotcha.
and then the main force arrives.
I see. So it's like a 1-2 punch.
Exactly.
So MES is like the big guns.
That's a good way to put it.
But what about those situations that need a smaller, faster force?
Then you've got the Marine Expeditionary Unit, or the MEU.
The MEU. Okay.
Specifically the MEU.
SOC.
What's the SOC?
Special Operations Capable.
Oh, wow.
They're the tip of the spear,
Okay.
forward deployed, ready to respond to crises quickly.
They're smaller than an MEF.
Yeah, but they still pack a punch.
All right. So while the MEF might be for, like, large-scale invasion,
Right.
the MEU might be the ones doing a hostage rescue
Exactly.
or a surgical strike.
They're trained for a variety of missions.
Okay.
Crisis response, limited forcible entry operations.
It's like the Marine Corps' Swiss Army knife,
That's a good one.
ready for anything.
They're constantly deployed, often operating from those big amphibious assault ships.
Right. Ready to go at a moment's notice.
Sure, boots on the ground.
So the MEF and the MEU, those are the big ones.
The workhorses.
Are there any other types of MAD-GTFs?
There is one more, the Special Purpose MAD-GTF.
The SPM MAD-GTF.
You got it.
Okay.
These are your custom-built task forces,
Right.
tailored for very specific missions. Gotcha.
Usually limited in time.
I see.
They can be small, like a company, or as large as a MEU.
Wow, so it really depends on the mission.
All depends on what needs to get done.
So if there's like a humanitarian crisis
Right.
or a need for a super specialized raid,
A SPM-GTF might be formed just for that.
okay, that makes sense.
They're flexible and can be assembled quickly.
And they're often referred to by their location or the name of the operation.
Exactly.
So it's incredible how the Marine Corps can adapt their structure
It is.
for meet all these different
They're
challenges.
good at that.
But all this talk about rapid deployment
Yeah.
wouldn't be possible without the logistics, right?
Absolutely. And MCDP-3 outlines some amazing logistical capabilities.
Tell me about them.
One of the most mind-blowing is Maritime Prepositioning Forces, or MPF.
APF, okay.
It's a global network of ships,
Okay.
strategically positioned, preloaded with everything a Marine unit could possibly need.
That's amazing.
It's wild. A single MPF squadron has enough equipment and supplies to support almost 18,000 Marines for a full 30 days.
Wow, that's incredible.
That's the equivalent of over 3,000 airlift sorties.
I can't even imagine.
So let's say a crisis happens somewhere.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting weeks for equipment to arrive by air,
Right.
Marines can just fly in, link up with an MPF ship,
Okay.
be fully combat ready within days.
Completely changes things.
Changes the game.
And you said it's flexible, right?
Yeah, it can be used to deploy full MEFs,
Right.
augment existing MEUs,
Yeah.
or even create those specialized MAD-GTFs we talked about.
So it's like a massive mobile military base.
That's a great way to put it.
So we've talked about MEFs, MEUs, SPM, GTFs. and the incredible MPF.
It's a lot.
But what about those times when speed is absolutely essential?
Like we talked about earlier, the air contingency force.
Like I could deploy in just 18 hours.
Those air contingency MAD GTFs, they're the rapid reaction force.
They're always on alert, ready to go.
Const
So no heavy equipment like the MPF.
Right. They rely on strategic airlift.
Okay.
And they have to be really efficient with what they bring.
Makes sense.
But that speed, it's essential
Absolutely.
for those rapidly evolving situations.
When every minute counts.
You got it.
So it's like a highly trained, heavily armed, airborne fire department.
I love that analogy.
Ready to go to those global hotspots.
To contain the situation, provide support, and maybe even pave the way for heavier forces.
Okay, so MCDP-3 lays out this really versatile and adaptable system
It does.
for projecting power around the world.
All over.
But how does all this integrate with the other branches of the military?
That's where Marine Corps component commands come in.
Okay,
So in a joint force,
Right.
each service has its own component commander.
gotcha.
That person advises the overall joint force commander
Okay.
on how to best use their forces.
Makes sense.
So you might have a Marine Corps component commander
Yeah.
working alongside an Army component commander
Yeah.
and an Air Force component commander,
Right.
all reporting up to that single joint force commander.
So the Marine Corps Component Commander is basically the advocate for Marine forces
Exactly.
within that big joint operation.
Making sure their capabilities are understood and used effectively.
And that commander is responsible for the tasks given to the Marines
Yep.
by the Joint Force Commander and making sure the Marine units have all the support they need,
All of it.
keeping everything running smoothly.
You got it.
And MCDP-3 even mentions that a Marine Corps Component Commander could be a functional component commander.
Right. That's interesting.
What does that mean?
That means they might lead a component made up of forces from different services.
So not just commanding Marines.
Nope. It could be a joint force maritime component
Wow.
or even a joint force land component.
So it really shows how well the Marine Corps operates in these joint environments.
It does. That flexibility, that interoperability,
It's impressive.
it's a hallmark of their whole approach to expeditionary warfare.
We've covered a lot of ground already,
We have.
from historical context to the detailed breakdown of MedGTFs.
MCDP-3 really gives you a comprehensive look at how the Marine Corps does these expeditionary operations.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
But for all of you listening, this is your bread and butter.
It's essential knowledge.
This document, it lays out the foundation
The foundation.
of how the Marine Corps operates.
And understanding these concepts
Yeah.
key to your success as a Marine.
All right, well, we're not done yet.
Oh no, there's more.
We still need to talk about how MCDP-3 shapes the Marine Corps approach to maneuver warfare,
That's next.
that fascinating three-block war concept,
We'll get into that.
and what the future holds for all of this.
We've got a lot to discuss.
So let's take a quick break,
Right.
and then we'll dive into all of that after the break.
Sounds good. So we're back and ready to dig deeper into MCDP-3.
All right, let's do it.
And this time, let's talk about how those expeditionary forces actually operate in the field.
All right, sounds good.
And one of the key principles here
Okay.
is maneuver warfare.
Maneuver warfare, okay, that sounds, kind of self-explanatory, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's more to it than just, moving troops around.
Oh, there's a lot more to it.
What does it actually mean in terms of Marine Corps doctrine?
At its core, maneuver warfare is about using speed, agility, and deception
Okay,
to get a tactical advantage over your enemy.
gotcha.
It's not about just brute force.
Right.
It's about outmaneuvering, outsmarting your opponent.
So less head-on confrontations.
Right.
And more about finding those creative ways to strike where the enemy is weakest,
Hit him where it hurts.
disrupt their plans.
Exactly.
CDP-3 really emphasizes tempo, right?
Yeah, it's all about tempo.
Seizing the initiative,
Dictating the terms of engagement.
keeping the enemy off balance,
Always keep them guessing,
make them react to you.
not the other way around.
I'm guessing that takes a lot of flexibility
Absolutely.
and adaptability from those Marines out in the field.
A high degree of both.
And it probably ties in with the idea of combined arms, right?
It does. You nailed it.
So all the different elements of the MAD-GTF working together
All working together
in this coordinated way.
to multiply their combat power.
So you've got infantry pushing forward,
Yep.
supported by armor,
Right.
artillery raining down fire support.
And air power overhead.
It's like a symphony of destruction.
And when it all works together seamlessly.
Incredibly powerful.
It is.
Now, MCDP-3 also talks about the three-block war.
Ah, yes. The three-block war.
That seems especially relevant today, right?
It does. With our complex, unpredictable world.
So break it down for us.
It's a framework for understanding the different operations a Marine unit might face,
Okay.
all within a single area.
Gotcha.
Imagine a city
Okay.
divided into 3 blocks,
Right, I'm picturing it.
each representing a different level of conflict.
Okay, 3 city blocks side by side.
Exactly.
What's happening in each one?
So in the first block, you might be doing humanitarian assistance,
Okay, providing aid.
helping civilians after a disaster, maybe.
Right.
Or in a conflict zone,
Makes sense.
building trust, providing support.
Gotcha. Then the second block.
Second block, peacekeeping operations,
Okay.
trying to stabilize a volatile situation,
Right.
maybe separating warring factions,
Okay.
enforcing a ceasefire.
So a mix of diplomacy and force.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance.
And then the third block,
Third block is where things get real.
high-intensity combat.
Full-scale warfare.
The most demanding and dangerous scenario,
Absolutely.
requiring all those skills and training.
Everything a Marine has.
So the 3-block war,
Yeah.
it basically shows how Marines might have to switch between these really different types of operations.
Sometimes within hours or even minutes.
Wow, that's incredible.
It really highlights the range of skills
Yeah.
and the adaptability expected of every Marine today.
You might be giving medical aid 1 minute
Right.
and calling in airstrikes the next.
All within the same area.
It's really a testament to how versatile the Marine Corps is.
And how well trained they are.
Thinking back to those different MEGTFs,
Yeah.
you could have an MEU doing humanitarian assistance in one block,
Right.
while a SPMGTF doing counterinsurgency in another block.
Just a few miles away.
It's amazing how they can tailor their responses,
For those specific challenges.
all happening at the same time.
The 3-block war really shows that.
So MCDP-3, it was written before all these new threats emerged, right?
It was.
Like these near-peer competitors we hear about.
Right.
And before things like cyberspace and space became so important in warfare, how do those principles adapt to these new threats?
It's a good question, and it's something military strategists are always thinking about. The
Yeah,
specific tactics and technology will definitely evolve,
Correct.
but the basic principles
Yeah.
of maneuver warfare and expeditionary operations,
Right.
those are still as relevant as ever.
So the core ideas are still good,
They are
but they're being applied in new ways.
to counter those modern threats, exactly.
So what are some of those new ways?
The Marine Corps is really focusing on things like distributed warfare and multi-domain operations.
Okay, can you explain those a little bit?
Sure, distributed warfare is all about spreading out your forces,
Okay.
making them harder to target.
So instead of concentrating forces in one place,
Right.
you spread them out.
More resilient, more agile.
So harder to pin down.
Exactly.
And multi-domain operations.
Multi-domain operations is about connecting all those capabilities
Okay.
across land, sea, air, space, and cyberspace
Wow, all of
to
this.
create a truly networked force.
So imagine coordinating actions in space
Right.
to give intel to troops on the ground.
While also disrupting enemy communications through cyber attacks.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's the power of multi-domain operations.
It sounds super complex, but also really effective.
It is when it's done right.
So it seems like those core ideas
Yeah.
of MCDP-3,
Yeah.
adaptability, flexibility, combined arms.
Yeah. Those are still crucial
But now they're being used in these new ways.
to counter those modern threats.
The Marine Corps is always adapting.
Always
Make sure they stay relevant and lethal.
in the 21st century. Yeah.
Now, there's also been a lot of talk about littoral operations.
Yes, littoral operations.
Where does that fit into all of this?
So littoral operations, those are the areas where the land meets the sea.
Okay.
Coastlines, islands, ports, all those strategically important areas in between.
And that's become a big focus for the Marine Corps, right?
It has, and for good reason.
Why is that?
With the rise of near-peer competitors like China and Russia,
Right.
and with how important global maritime trade routes are,
Uh-huh.
those littoral regions
Yep.
are becoming more and more strategically important.
I see.
And MCDP-3 really highlights how the Marine Corps is uniquely suited to operate in these areas.
So we might see more amphibious operations.
Yep.
Island hopping campaigns,
It's possible.
projecting power from the sea onto land.
In those critical littoral regions.
That makes sense.
The Marine Corps is even investing in new platforms and capabilities,
Oh, wow.
specifically designed for littoral operations
So new amphibious vehicles
that can navigate those tough coastal environments,
and long-range weapons.
that can target enemy ships and defenses from far away.
It's incredible how you're adapting to these new challenges.
You're good at that.
But it seems like that core idea of MCDP-3
Yeah.
being that force in readiness,
Always ready.
that's the enduring legacy.
You're absolutely right. MCDP-3 provides the doctrinal foundation.
A blueprint.
But it's the Marines themselves,
Wow.
with their adaptability, their warrior ethos, their commitment to excellence,
It's the people
who really bring that doctrine to life.
And one of the ways MCDP3 does this
Yes.
is by drawing on the history of Marine Corps operations
Oh, absolutely.
to show those principles in action.
It's not just theory.
So it actually includes real-world examples.
It does. Specific examples from past operations,
For-
from World War II to more recent conflicts.
Okay.
Showing how the principles of expeditionary warfare have worked in the real world.
So it's one thing to understand the theory,
Right.
but it's another to see it actually play out.
On the battlefield, yeah.
What are some of those key examples?
Well, one of the most famous,
Yeah.
and one that's really important to the Marine Corps,
Okay.
is the amphibious assault on Iwo Jima during World War II.
Ah, Iwo Jima, a legendary battle.
A tough one, incredibly costly.
Why is it such a good example of expeditionary warfare?
It shows how the Marine Corps can project overwhelming power from the sea
Okay.
and overcome incredible odds
Wow.
to secure a strategically vital objective.
A true testament to those Marines.
Absolutely. Their courage, tenacity, determination.
It really became a symbol of the Marine Corps fighting spirit, didn't it?
It did. That image of the flag raising on Mount Suribachi,
Iconic.
it captures what it means to be a Marine.
And MCDP3 also talks about more recent operations, right?
It does.
Like the invasion of Iraq in 2003. The Marine Corps played a crucial role there.
In the initial assault and the ground campaign.
That's right.
So all these examples, both historical and recent.
They show how those core principles,
Yeah.
like maneuver warfare and combined arms, they work across different conflicts, different scenarios.
It doesn't matter the enemy or the terrain.
Exactly. MCDP3 doesn't just tell you what to think.
Right.
It shows you how these concepts have been used successfully in real-world situations
So valuable lessons learned.
for future operations.
It's like a direct link to those past generations of Marines
Who faced similar challenges.
and overcame them.
That's a great way to put it.
So it's a valuable resource, not just for understanding history,
No, not just history.
but for preparing for the future.
Absolutely.
And it provides that common language
That shared understanding.
of how the Marine Corps operates,
This is so important.
especially for a military force.
Where everyone needs to be on the same page.
All right, so we've covered a lot here. The history, the concepts, the real-world examples.
It's been a journey.
But for our listener, who's a Marine,
Yeah.
if they were to take away just a few key points from all this,
Okay.
what would you say are the most important things to remember?
That's a great question.
We need to distill all this down.
To its essence, yeah.
What's the core message?
First and foremost, MCDP3 emphasizes the unique role of the Marine Corps as America's expeditionary force in readiness.
They're always ready to go.
Always prepared to deploy anywhere in the world.
On short notice, ready for anything.
That's the Marine Corps.
The nation's 9/11 force.
That's a good way to put it.
When a crisis happens,
They're the ones you call.
immediate action needed.
And MCDP3 provides that doctrinal foundation for how they do it.
The how-to guide.
The organizational structures, the operational concepts, the core principles,
in there.
all designed to make sure the Marine Corps is ready to respond.
Effectively, no matter when or where.
That's the goal.
And it also emphasizes how important it is to be adaptable,
Oh yeah, adaptability is key.
flexible.
To be able to operate in a world that's constantly changing.
So mastering maneuver warfare.
Yeah.
Understanding that 3-block war.
And adapting to those new threats in cyberspace and space.
So Marines need to be agile,
Absolutely.
innovative.
Always learning, always improving.
It's about being more than just warriors.
It is.
It's about being thinkers,
Problem solver.
making good decisions under pressure.
And MCDP3, it's a call to action.
It is.
A challenge to every Marine.
To internalize these principles, to master their craft, to be ready when their nation needs them.
Powerful message.
It is.
We've covered a lot, but I feel like we've only scratched the surface.
There's always more to learn.
So where do we go from here?
What are your final thoughts for our listener?
As we wrap up this deep dive into MCDP3, yeah, it's a lot to think about, but MCDP3, it's more than just a history lesson, right?
It is for sure. So for our listener out there, actively serving in the Marine Corps,
Yep.
what should they really be taking away from all of this?
My final thought, and it's an important one,
Okay.
is that MCDP3 is more than just a manual.
Right.
It's a living document.
What do you mean by that?
It's meant to be studied, debated,
Okay.
but most importantly, applied to the real world.
So not just memorizing concepts,
No, no, no.
but actually understanding those principles.
And using them
Yeah.
to guide your actions, your decisions out in the field.
So taking those concepts from MCDP 3
Right.
and constantly adapting them,
To the realities of the battlefield.
which, as we've talked about, are always changing.
Always evolving.
Because the true test of MCDP 3
Isn't in the pages of the document. It's in
Yeah.
the actions of Marines, like our listener.
carrying on that legacy.
The legacy of expeditionary warfare.
Well said.
And to our listener and to all Marines out there.
Yes.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your dedication to this country.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into MCDP 3,
We hope it's given you a better understanding of this crucial doctrine.
the doctrine that shapes how the Marine Corps approaches these expeditionary operations,
And maybe even a renewed appreciation.
for just how relevant it still is.
And remember, this is just the beginning.
The learning never ends.
As MCDP 3 says,
I love this quote.
the future of warfare is uncertain.
So true.
Our ability to adapt to change will be the key to our success.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So keep learning,
Keep questioning.
keep striving for excellence.
And semper fi.
Semper Fi.